Hello, and welcome to the Upset Prevention and Recovery Training Association International Science Team. My name is Janine Koshan, and I'm the team lead of the science team for UPRTA. A little bit of my background and how it relates to upset prevention and recovery training. First of all, I'm a pilot, instructor pilot, designated pilot examiner, A&P mechanic with inspector authorization, and have worked on several of the FAA Aviation Rulemaking Advisory Committee working groups. I'm also a former U.S. Part 121 air carrier captain, human factors instructor, and started the human factors department at our airline. One of my main interests, though, is as a human factors scientist. I hold a master's degree in systems engineering from The Ohio State University, go Bucks, and my PhD is from the University of Central Florida in human factors engineering. Today, and with UPRTA, my focus is on human performance and pilots' reactions to unexpected events, encountering the loss of control in flight through UPRT. Now, let me talk a little bit about what the purpose of our science team is in the bigger picture of the UPRTA organization. Our team is looking to define, validate, and disseminate foundational knowledge base for UPRT, and we're going from human factors to data modeling. Through the end of this year, we're going to finish consolidating the best available science to underpin operational practices. In other words, we take our science and we want to make it usable for the operational world in upset training. Beginning next year, our output will shape training design, standard setting, and cognitive resilience development worldwide. That's the purpose of our team. Now, our team is comprised of two working groups, the Human Factors Group and the Safety Data Analysis Group. We have Warren Hattori in charge of our Human Factors Working Group, and they will be looking at human performance risks and UPRT decision-making. The UPRT Safety Data Analysis Group is led by Michaela Satter, and she and her group will be looking at the metrics framework. In other words, looking at the data that will give us an indication of how effective the training is, the UPRT is, and if there are parts of it that are not effective or need to be changed. So we're using the data to drive our human factors suggestions. Before we jump into the details from Warren and Michaela, I want to give you just a little bit of background. I've been personally involved in fighting loss of control in flight for over 40 years. In the very, very early years, we had in 1920s, 30s, and 40s, many scientists and operational personnel talking about human performance and referencing loss of control in flight, often using different terminology, but they were still looking at the physiological, the psychological, and sociological aspects of pilot performance. And as the years went by, the UPRT research findings started coming from different directions. For example, the United States National Transportation Safety Board recommendations in the 1970s would refer to having to ensure more training for dealing with unusual attitudes and extended envelope type situations. In the 1990s, aviation authorities started to mandate very rudimentary UPRT concepts, such as unusual attitude training and different kinds of stall training. By 2009, a very, very large group of scientists, operational personnel, test pilots, and researchers convened the International Committee for Aviation Training and Extended Envelopes, better known as ICAO. And from this group, that group worked many, many years, and eventually, 5 years later, they offered the basis for the current ICAO standards on upset prevention and recovery training through ICAO Doc 10011 or 111. In 2015, the FAA mandated extended envelope training for Part 121 air carrier pilots, and in 2019, EASA joined in with mandates. So it's been almost 100 years that we've been talking about and looking and researching and trying to come up with training solutions to pilots' loss of control in flight. And what I've always called it, pilots' response to unexpected events. So if we look at where we've been and now we look at where we are today and where we're going tomorrow, I show you this model, not that you need to memorize it, but in sum, it shows where our past research indicates expertise in piloting. And I've noted here with green shading where we have gaps. And one of the most important gaps that we have in our training system today is that our aviation experiences need to be meaningful. And by meaningful, I mean upset prevention and recovery training. Because flying an airplane for 1,500 hours with just, no meaning, if you will, is not going to improve pilot skills as a meaningful training event such as UPRT would. We also need to focus on the motivation for pilots to obtain additional and advanced what we consider just training that should be required no matter what. And so we have to look at their motivation, and of course, also we need to look at their awareness of hazards. You will hear from some of our other speakers about the risk management and safety management systems, and this is where we fall short in hazard awareness. And then from the human factors standpoint, we look at metacognition, or the pilot's ability to evaluate their own performance. Because we hear so often that I've flown 20,000 hours and I never had an upset and I've never been anywhere close to loss of control in flight. And, but are we really training our pilots to recognize and be able to evaluate their own performance? Are they paying attention to what needs to be paid attention to in their environment for that prevention stage? So these are some of the areas that we will be looking at, that we've looked at in the past, but we're going to bring it into the future and hopefully be able to create change as we go through the next years. And to do that, once again, I present our science team group leads. For human factors, Warren Patori, he has a PhD from Florida Institute of Technology. He is also a current airline 737 first officer, and he has been teaching UPRT for many, many years. So he has both the academic and the operational background to lead this work group. And then finally, we have Michaela Satter, and she is the group lead for the safety data analysis. Again, she is an airline pilot. She also has experience teaching UPRT, and I've had the opportunity to work on loss of control in flight research projects with her, and her master's degree thesis was also based in loss of control in flight. So we have a great team available, and they will be presenting their work. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the presenters here, and we hope to see you back often.